Yo, what is going on, guys? Welcome to the video. I hope your day's going great. Mine's been awesome so far. Today, we gotta talk about Day 1 Overwatch League because it's back and it's in the books. It was amazing. The games were incredible. We had some unexpected performances and some really close matches. It left us at the edge of our seats the entire time. Today we're going to be breaking down some of the most interesting parts of Day 1. We'll start off with the London Spitfire versus Philadelphia Fusion, moving on into the second game. We'll be covering the Boston Uprising taking on the New York Excelsior, Boston really surprising us all. Then in the third set, when all of the pride was on the line, we had the LA Gladiators taking on Seoul Dynasty, Fissure prevailing. We'll take a look at that. And lastly, China versus China for the first time, Hangzhou Spark taking on the Shanghai Dragons. Incredible matches all across the board. It's good to be back, guys. If you're excited to recap yesterday and go through my predictions for today, be sure to drop a like on this video and subscribe to my channel for more daily uploads. So starting off with the very first match, we had London Spitfire and the Philadelphia Fusion. This one was kind of a shocker to me. I expected this to be one of the closer sets, and I actually picked London Spitfire to win it like 3-1 or 3-2. But shockingly enough, Philadelphia Fusion came out and they won it in pretty dominant fashion. Looking at Rialto, it was not even close. They had an incredible defense on that first point, shutting down the London Spitfire. Now, overall, the set was pretty fun to watch. It was definitely an entertaining opener. It was good to see Philadelphia Fusion come back and show that, we're still going to be a strong team. Us making the playoffs and going as far as we did wasn't a fluke, which I wasn't worried about them. I didn't think that it was like a fluke that they made it that far. I still thought they would be a top 5, top 6 team and make the playoffs overall this season. I just didn't feel like they actually had a deep run in them again. But who knows, man? The Overwatch League is proving that anybody can win at any time, which was also a story last season. Any team could have won at any time besides the Shanghai Dragons, obviously, which that hasn't changed either. We'll talk about that later. But we started off on Ilios. It was a close map, back and forth. Both teams picked up a round, and it went to the third one. Philadelphia Fusion, they were just the more clutch team that night. Both teams kind of stuck with a form of goats. At one point on the third round, London Spitfire did come out with Birdring on McCree, and I do feel like that might have been their downfall on that map, giving Philadelphia Fusion the better comp and the edge. They did look like they were running goats better on the first map, Ilios, and they took it going up 1-0. The second map, Hollywood, was extremely close. This is one of the funnest maps I watched all night, and I was scared for London Spitfire because it was so back and forth. I knew if they lost it, they would be down 0-2, and that's almost impossible to come back from. Philadelphia Fusion, they looked great, and they did pick up the win on a nail-biting last team fight, giving them the 2-0 edge in the series. Moving on to Volskaya, this is where things got interesting, at least comp-wise. London Spitfire, they decided to switch it up big time, and we got our first taste of a comp that did not feature goats, and it actually featured 4 DPSs, guys. So we had Nuss on the Mercy, Bedosin on the Tracer, Birdring on the Widowmaker, Gesture on the Hamster, Prophet on Pharah, and then Fury on the Sombra. An extremely diverse comp that allowed them to take that first point from all angles, and they didn't struggle whatsoever. Philadelphia Fusion was running goats with a monkey, and they had no idea what to do. London Spitfire, they moved on to the second point with this comp, and they were still really successful. They ticked it all the way up to 99%, but a switch over to Ashe from Carpe actually really helped them out and gave them a few extra minutes to save. But London Spitfire came back with goats, and they eventually capped. This was a close nail-biting map as well, one of the more exciting ones due to this comp and other features. It was just back and forth, and whenever 2CP goes very long, it's always fun to see. In the end, London Spitfire did edge it out, and they would finally get a map in the set. Moving on to the fourth map, Rialto, London Spitfire, they needed to win once again if they wanted to have a chance in the set. Philadelphia Fusion, another chance to close it out, and close it out they did. It wasn't even close. Philadelphia Fusion absolutely dominated the London Spitfire on Rialto. They basically shut down the London Spitfire, not even letting them win a single team fight. Now, that's utter dominance. I know it's hard to take the first point on Rialto, but again, the London Spitfire didn't win a team fight. Usually, you'll see the attacking team win at least one team fight, then the defense comes back and they defend under the bridge. But that wasn't the case in this match. Philadelphia Fusion, they took it 3-1 in dominant fashion. Philadelphia looking great, London Spitfire looking decent. Unfortunate loss for them. We'll just have to see how they bounce back in their next match. But one thing to note is there's a lot less matches this season than there was last season, so a loss in the regular season means a lot more than it did last season. So London Spitfire, they better go back to the drawing board, figure out what happened here. Philadelphia Fusion, they're looking like a playoff contender. Congratulations to them. Incredible match. Let's move on to the second one now, which was the New York Excelsior and Boston Uprising. Now, I did put Boston Uprising as number 18 on my power rankings, but I said multiple times it's the Boston Uprising, and you never know what you're going to get with these guys. And I even tweeted it out before the New York Excelsior match yesterday. I said if there was was one team in the Overwatch League that would surprise us, it would definitely be the Boston Uprising again. And boy, did they surprise us, guys. The Boston Uprising came out firing, and the shocking thing was they were running fusions on main tank and Axiom on flex tank. Now, this was a very surprising change because we all know Boston Uprising traded Gamsu out of nowhere to the Shanghai Dragons, and in Season 1, he was literally the poster boy for this team. So seeing him get traded made me think Axiom was going to be the permanent main tank, but instead, they were running Axiom on flex tank instead of Color Hex, and that was my biggest issue with this roster, is that I just didn't think Blase and Color Hex were a DPS duo that can stand up to other strong DPS duos in the league. No hate to the guy, but Color Hex, he comes from an underdeveloped region, and I know you guys hate when I say that, but it's true. Australia is an underdeveloped region compared to some of the Western regions and the Korean and Chinese region. It's just underdeveloped. The competition there is minor, and the experience overall just isn't very high. But instead, they put Axiom, previously a main tank, on that Zarya, and he performed like a god, and then Fusions didn't miss a beat from his World Cup performance. His Reinhardt performance was great. He even outclassed Mano at certain points. Nepal was extremely close. It did go in favor of New York Excelsior, but on Nubani, Boston Uprising started firing back at New York Excelsior. The Boston Uprising started off on attack, and they just grinded their way through Nubani. They almost got first held, but every single team fight, they narrowly won and eventually pushed it all the way through. New York Excelsior had a good attack as well, and we went into overtime rounds, and Boston Uprising bested the New York Excelsior, tying the series up 1-1 in a thriller. Moving on to the third map, it was Horizon Lunar Colony, and this was an interesting map. It was back and forth, but Boston Uprising did look like they were about to first hold the New York Excelsior. They were extremely close. It went all the way down to 0 seconds. New York Excelsior eventually was able to take it. Fusions, though, again, on this defense was just popping off. It was back and forth, but eventually it ended in a draw, moving us into the fourth and final map, winner take all, Route 66. We had another close map, not as close as the previous one, but New York Excelsior did come out on top and take the series 2-1 in a nail biter. Jonak, looking like an amazing player, didn't miss a beat going into this series, looks just as good as he did in Season 1. We did predict the New York Excelsior would win, but we also predicted that Boston Uprising might look decent in this series, and they did. It was a close match, exciting to watch, shout out to them. Moving on into the third set, this one was extremely exciting. It was the match between LA Gladiators and Seoul Dynasty. This is the perfect first match for both of these teams because obviously all the drama that happened with Fissure and the LA Gladiators at the end of Season 1, costing the LA Gladiators their playoff chances. We all know when London Spitfire traded Fissure over to the LA Gladiators, the LA Gladiators had the London Spitfire's number. Like literally the London Spitfire could not beat the LA Gladiators when Fissure played for them, and they did not the entire season until Fissure was benched, and then LA Gladiators ran iRemix instead, and London Spitfire beat them in the playoffs. I predicted that the Seoul Dynasty would win this match, and they did, but it didn't start off looking like they would. The LA Gladiators came out firing on Ilios, guys. A dominating 2-0 win on Ilios. I don't even think Seoul Dynasty won a team fight. It was 200% to 0%. Utter dominance, guys, I'm telling you. But moving on to Kings Row, the second map, Fissure finally got his chance to shine. We saw GOATs with Reinhardt. Kings Row, obviously a close corridors map, relies a lot on your main tank, and Fissure showed why he was one of the best main tanks in the league once again, and why nobody should doubt him. Dominating the LA Gladiators. It seemed like when the LA Gladiators won in this set, they looked really good and Seoul Dynasty looked weak. But then when Seoul Dynasty won their map, they looked really good and LA Gladiators looked really weak. So series tied up 1-1. We moved on to 2CP, which was Horizon Lunar Colony. And again, when Seoul Dynasty looked good, they looked really good. And they first held the LA Gladiators on Horizon Lunar Colony. The LA Gladiators did put up a decent fight on their defense, but it just wasn't good enough. And Seoul Dynasty eventually took it off the back of Michelle's Reaper play. And by the way, this Michelle kid is so damn flexible, my mind is blown. The guy was playing every single hero in the game. Pharah, Reaper, Sombra, Zarya, Diva. I mean, like, whatever you needed this guy to play, he was playing it and he was popping off. Moving into the fourth and final map, we had Route 66, and this is where Fissure put down the hammer. He was hitting huge shatters left and right, and this was such a nail biter. The first close map of the entire set went all the way down to overtime, but Seoul Dynasty eventually did come out on top near the end. And again, due to the incredible plays coming out from Fissure, Michelle, and the entire Seoul Dynasty roster, they looked really good, man. There's a reason I put Seoul Dynasty at number 3 on my power rankings and picked Seoul Dynasty to beat the LA Gladiators. They're a top team this season because they fixed every single problem they had during Season 1, which was shot calling, main tank, and coaching. It's all fixed, guys. I'm telling you, Seoul Dynasty should be hyped up right now. Fissure was also asked in an interview after he won, does he think he's the main tank and how does he feel about beating the LA Gladiators? Of course he said he's the best main tank. This is what he had to say.
What is up, everybody? I am here with the player of the match, sponsored by Omen by HP, Fissure from Seoul Dynasty. Woo! Fissure, congratulations on the win. Now, you just pulled off an amazing victory against your previous team, LA Gladiators. How does that feel? What does that mean to you? So to put it simply, I don't really have anything against the LA Gladiators. The promise that LA Gladiators had for me after last season, they really pulled through. And it was an amazing promise, an amazing agreement that we had. So it's kind of unfortunate that I had to face against them, our previous team, for our first matchup of the season. But I'm very happy that I won today. All right, cool. Thank you so much. Next question, one more question. This one is a fun one. Do you believe, Fissure, that you are the best main tank in the Overwatch League? 자, 피셔 선수, 자기 자신이 최고의 메인 탱커라고 확신하십니까?
Nobody.
Nobody else. Alrighty, that's all I have. Everybody, let's get back to the casters.
So Fissure kind of maybe apologizing there to the LA Gladiators for screwing them over last season and saying thank you for sending me off to my new and better team, the Seoul Dynasty. Very interesting, but Seoul Dynasty does look strong and Fissure did look like one of the best main tanks. Obviously he's extremely confident and he thinks he is the best, so good for him. Anyways, that was that set. Let's move on now to the very last one, the Hangzhou Spark and the Shanghai Dragons. And this was an interesting match. Going into it, I thought Shanghai Dragons might be able to win it because they had Gamsu, a new strong main tank coming in from Boston Uprising, but it seems like they decided to not run him, or maybe Gamsu wasn't comfortable, or maybe just some type of rule in the Overwatch League didn't allow them to play him right away. And the Shanghai Dragons had to run one of their DPS players, Youngjin, on main tank. And honestly, I don't think it worked out for them, because it did force them to run a lot of wacky comps. They were running a lot of hamster, a lot of random stuff, a whole bunch of quad DPS comps that just didn't work out against GOATs. And throughout this entire set, Hangzhou Spark just looked like the better team because of that. As for the Hangzhou Spark, though, they still did look really good. I was impressed with them. I really liked No Smite. I was glad he was in there over Guo Shui. I do think he'll end up being more of the starting main tank for this team. Not because he's better than Guo Shui, it's just he's better for the team in regards to like communication and just being full Korean. Whereas Guo Shui, you know, is Chinese. He's probably working on his Korean, but it was cool to see him get that last map start. It was still somewhat of a close set though. Rialto, it went down to the very last team fight. If Shanghai Dragons were able to win that fight, they would have forced game 5. So the fact that they made it that close without a main tank is pretty impressive, and I do think they will get their first win in the Overwatch League very soon. Anyways though guys, that is going to be the video for me. Thank you for watching. If you did enjoy it, be sure to drop a like on it, subscribe for more daily Overwatch League content. That's going to be it guys. I'll see you later. Peace.